Note that Councilor Dirksen is excused. But we have a quorum, and so the meeting is in order. We have a series of citizens who wish to testify. I think I am going to call a group of them up that appear to have similar issues. So let's do two panels of four. I think I've got this all right. Maybe one panel of four. So Riley and Stacy Henney, Danny Denenberg, Courtney Scott. So we lost somebody in the...
She's not going to testify.
You're not going to testify? Okay.
So I can start. Wow, that's a powerful feedback. So my name is Danny Denenberg, and I'm a Portland Program Director for a nonprofit called Humane Education Advocates Reaching Teachers, which is otherwise known as HEART. And I'm here today to share a deep concern that I have about elephants at the Oregon Zoo. And I'm going to do something unconventional and have you for a moment connect with your heart and really try to get into that space. I know that's difficult in a building like this where we're separated from the natural world and other beings, but I'd like you to just tap into that space for a moment while I read something that became part of an inspiration station in the Lloyd District. Through the eyes of an elephant. Alive are the sub-Saharan savannas, forests, deserts, and marshes. Peals of thunder crackle in the distance. Succulent young acacia trees pepper the land. Wildebeest, zebra, and buck abound. Shades of gray silhouette the dusk-bound sky, trumpeting, mud-wallowing, frolicking, running acres upon acres. Unbreakable matriarchal ties that bond young and old. The simple but life necessary joys and needs of the family elephantidae. Born into captivity, or taken from their homelands for display, for entertainment. Dulling eyes, broken-spirited, shells of their full selves. Why? To learn, we say. We are curious, we say. To conserve, we say. The words that should be echoed instead, what befalls one species will befall us all. Run wild, my sisters, run. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Riley Henney. I'm 13. I go to school at Lakers Junior High in Lake Oswego, Oregon. I'm here to also express my concern about animals in the zoo in their captivity, elephants in the zoo in their captivity. So first, I would like to thank everyone here for taking the time to listen to my opinion on the matter, as I know sometimes young people are not taken very seriously. So I would like to express much gratitude to those of you who appreciate my hard work. I will now express my point of view on the use of animals for entertainment By reading the emotions of exploited and suppressed animals, I have come to realize that animals exist for their own reasons, and therefore we should not be taking advantage of them. I emphasize this especially for something so unequal of intensity of emotion to pain and torture as entertainment. Animals do not have the ability to express decisions with us. Therefore, when one says that animals are treated humanely, they are not considering that the animals have not given consent to captivity, as they are not able to. The harsh living conditions and training that are not biologically or psychologically healthy are also not consensual. I would like to explain the intensity of the elephants' training. It is not healthy for them. Many say these are lies. However, I have seen unedited footage and with my own eyes of suffering and struggling animals as they are being trained for the zoo. Anyone can tell when an elephant really goes insane. It's natural under extreme pressure for anyone to. It makes me sick to see these bitter, underpaid, angry workers beating and hitting and screaming at elephant slaves. The animals just want to escape their living hell. Not only is the entertainment aspect painful for these animals, but imagine the point in your life when you were most scared, afraid there would be consequences for any error made. This is what it's like for animals on the stage. Except while your consequence may be embarrassing yourself in front of your friends, these animals are subjected to beating and harsh training so that next time they can get it right. And when humans finally do leave them alone, they really leave them alone. Deserted, cramped living conditions are an everyday reality. These animals are left to marinate in their own feces and die brokenhearted. Why is this okay? Obviously, it is a lie that the animals are happy. So why is it fine with us anyway? Did they do something to deserve this, or do they not have feelings, or do we just not care? No, and apparently, no, we don't care. For those of you who don't like this last answer, please continue to fight, to advocate, educate, and stand up for what is right.
Go ahead.
If you want to just summarize real quickly.
I was just going to say, and then for those of you who don't care, please reflect upon these facts and keep an open mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Stacy.
President Hughes and Metro Councilors, as an advocate for the Oregon Zoo elephants, I want to make you aware that the Detroit Zoo is experiencing record profits without any elephants. For ethical reasons, the director of the Detroit Zoo, Ron Kagan, released his 2 elderly elephants to sanctuary in 2004. At a time when the Oregon Zoo is experiencing a record number of problems with its elephants. TB, for one, and a continued decline of its eldest, Packy, for another. It is a good time to reflect on doing the humane thing for these elephants and release them to sanctuary, since it now seems clear that the preserve will not be created anytime soon. Packy will never see and experience any part of his life as a real elephant. I believe that the people of Portland would like to see him enjoy some freedom before he dies. After 51 years of service, he certainly deserves it. And a 6-acre exhibit with less than that really for the elephants is not the answer. The zoo director continues to tell the public that the elephants are thriving. However, this is just AZA mandated PR. I go to the zoo often, and I see how the elephants are doing, and it's not good. They pace, they bob their heads, or they stand and stare. Chendra goes around in circles. This is typical, stereotypical behavior endemic to zoos and circuses. I strongly urge you to overrule the zoo director, who, by the way, has a questionable record of animal deaths, including the death of a 40-year-old elephant at her former place of employment, the Brookfield Zoo. Free Packy now to pause sanctuary in Galt, California. It is the right and only humane thing to do. I'll be forwarding my testimony and the article about the Detroit Zoo to each of you later today. Thank you.
Thank you. And I may have difficulty. Betty Stefik, Nanette Jones, and Nancy Newell.
Good day, council members and President Hughes. Do elephants survive in a zoo better than the wild? Every one of you received my email with the links, and I'm stating my findings for public record. National Geographic, ABC News, USA Today, PETA report elephants live longer in the wild. This is from a study of 2008. The Association of Zoos and Aquariums were 15th on the list of my search. If zoos were the answer to elephant conservation, this link would be first on the page with other articles and organizations following in support. ABC reported British and Canadian scientists who conducted The 6-year study say their findings put an end to their debate once and for all. Mason and colleagues looked at data from more than 4,500 wild and captive African and Asian elephants. The findings show that captive elephants live considerably shorter lives. The median lifespan for an African elephant in European zoos was 16.9 years, compared with 56 years for elephants who died from natural causes in Kenya's Amboseli Park. Adding in those elephants killed by people in Africa lowered the median lifespan to 35.9 years, still more than half. Keep It Wild is from this next posting is from their Elephant Adventure article. Elephants are made for walking, foraging, and exploring large spaces. Their home range can be several hundred square kilometers, all the way up to 5,000 square kilometers or more in size. To get an idea of how big a typical elephant range is, try to imagine a space that's 50 miles long by 20 miles wide. PETA shared zoos rob elephants of their most basic needs, including social companionship and adequate space to exercise. Lack of exercise and long hours standing on hard surfaces are major contributors to foot infections and arthritis, the leading causes of death among captive elephants. The Seattle Times, Glamour Beast, an investigative series by Seattle reporter, staff reporter Michael J. Behrens, received the National Press Club with its Ann Cottrell Free Animal Reporting Award. The series reported that efforts by zoos to preserve and propagate elephants have largely failed, both in Seattle and nationally. The infant mortality rate for elephants in zoos has almost tripled the rate in the wild. Behrens did a first-of-its-kind analysis of 390 fatalities at accredited U.S. zoos for the past 50 years. His analysis found that most of the elephants died from injury or disease linked to conditions of their captivity, from chronic foot problems caused by standing on hard surfaces to musculoskeletal disorders from inactivity caused by being pinned or chained for days and weeks at a time. Michael Behrens exposed in his two-part series the inhumane treatment caused to Kai in order to conceive a baby elephant, and the death of her baby, Hansa, at 6 years old, because Kai was exposed to EEHV. Woodland Park knew this was a risk she may be exposed, but they shipped her off to the Missouri Zoo anyway with the AZA approval, Seattle's plan. I share this with you not to criticize, but to appeal to your humanity. Elephants do not belong in zoos. Please gather together and heavily weigh the information that's been presented to you. Give Packy and all the Oregon Zoo elephants freedom. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Metro Council. I'm here today to speak for the Oregon elephants, or out for them. The Oregon Zoo once stated that sanctuaries were a big TB threat for elephants, and this is why Packy would not ever be released to one. And now, a few years later, Packy is actually under TB threat. So currently, Oregon Zoo has 8 elephants on 1.2 acres of land. We just heard it testify that one elephant area is up to 50 miles. We have 8 elephants on 1.2 acres. I do not see how the zoo can adequately protect the rest of the herd from contacting TB as long as, due to the sheer lack of space and humans coming in, okay? This is why Packy and son Rama should be released to Sanctuary Paws in California to retire in peace and to protect the rest of the herd from exposure. I propose freedom for Packy and Rama instead of the proposed precautionary expensive $60,000 worth of litany of dangerous drugs that can actually kill Packy and Rama, but worse, make them very sick, more stress from their increased confinement, isolation, loneliness, and daily anal probing, since this is how they're going to have to put the medicine. I mean, who's the lucky guy who gets to give an anal suppository to Packy daily for a year? He's on his last set of teeth. We should let Packy retire with some respect and have a say in how he spends his day. Okay, we should take that $60,000 that are going to go to these deadly drugs that actually might kill these animals and use that to transport these animals down to Paws in California, where they have more space to actually let these animals wander around and live out their last days in peace and respect without being confined in a broom closet at the zoo. 1.2 acres. Where are these bulls being housed? And how are they going to be confined for a year? Now, the zoo is doing construction right now, to increase, yes, the on-site expansion for 6.2 acres. That's only half of that is actually going to be utilized for elephant space. This is still inadequate space for 8 elephants. So I'm proposing that the 2 bulls, that their DNA is no longer needed by the zoo, to be relinquished to spend their days at Paws Sanctuary in California, use the $60,000 that the zoo is currently proposed to spend on this litany of dangerous drugs, and use that money to transport these animals. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nancy Newell. I've appeared here several times, made really valid points. And I don't quite understand how we teach our children not to be cruel to animals with an elephant program, the one existing at the Portland Zoo. The first thing that should be done, the breeding program should immediately be stopped. You've got TB all over the place. You can't even track it. What in the world are you doing allowing more breeding of elephants in this zoo? That's outright cruelty. How do we teach our children that something like that is acceptable by supposed leaders in our community? Doesn't make any sense. There are plenty of opportunities to shift the program out. I would think your energies and your focus, are we that uncreative in the city of Portland? We have some of the most creative people in the world in this city to figure out a program to make the zoo, like Detroit, much more part of the community and not an educational program for enslaving one of the closest to females in particular, female humans, in behavior, their connection to their babies, as an example of the magnificence of what we've been offered on this earth. Why are we now the cruelest city in this country to a magnificent creature? I mean, you're going to have to go to your grave explaining that to, if you believe in a higher spiritual existence, how are you going to explain it? You can't. I don't know what's wrong with our zoo director, but how could you hire her into our zoo program with breeding, and this baby is going to be subjected to this kind of life? How can you do that and say, oh, well, it's up to the zoo director, when the public puts in a bond measure, goes to the effort of paying attention to say, give Packy a break, get him to a sanctuary? How can you possibly keep acting in this fashion and go home and sleep at night? I don't get it. It's like when I opened Time magazine just recently, and it showed that now small nuclear reactors of the answer in Fukushima will be on our shores in 2014, and major radiation is a very likely potential. What is it about our society today that people like yourselves have responsibilities and ignore all the red flags? I don't understand it. And I'm a leader in this community. I take on a lot of different major issues, and I've succeeded at a lot, and particularly nuclear power. I've closed 3 nuclear plants. But you're not saving these magnificent animals' lives, prolonging their lives, educating our children properly. There's so many categories you're failing. Do something about it. Be creative. Show some humanity. Show the quality of our city. I think it's way past time. And I still, what's motivating it? Is it the contractors? I don't know. But it doesn't make any sense.
Thank you. Art Llewellyn. Sure. Yep.